Hey YouTube, this is Eddie's Tech Talk, and today I'm going to be talking about one of those pieces of refurbished electronics that I was in fact mentioning in my video, where I'm talking about refocusing the channel a little bit, talking about the value that you can get out of either products that were an overstock or overproduce from a previous generation. More to come on that later. So perhaps a new product that's just maybe a year behind the times, right? And you get to save a little bit more money, or a refurbished item like this one. And like I said in my video, as far as I could tell, the original retail price of this was around $600. I haven't really been able to find very many listings for this these days that aren't refurbished. So what that leads me to speculate is that these Lenovo Chromebooks had some kind of, maybe not major issue, but some kind of slightly widespread issue from the factory. So a lot of these turned into refurbs versus just new listings. I was in Best Buy the other day, and the closest I could find to this was like a $550 Chromebook. There was a $600 Chromebook, a couple Chromebooks that had a couple features of this and missing others, and then again vice versa. This had features that didn't, and lacked features that it did, and all those things. So it's hard to actually pin down. Again, I haven't really been able to find even a historical view of the new listing for this Chromebook, but I did look up my price on eBay. I was pretty on par. I paid just under $200 for this Chromebook a couple months ago. So I wanted to do a review of, look, how did it hold up? Is it something you should consider? I don't exactly know what the current prices are for all of this, and that's sort of a drawback of covering refurbished tech, is the prices do change and listings sell out. But I do know this is in decent widespread availability. There's also a Chromebook from Acer with, I think, a Core i5 processor, so a little bit beefier under the hood for I think $100 more, similar type screen, similar type setup. So if you're looking at this or any of the things in that range, how do these refurbished pieces hold up over time in general, right? Of course, it's a refurbished electronic, your mileage may vary. So let's go around the physical condition of the device, right? Because I talked a little bit about that in the video. Ignore this line here, it's the lighting casting on my tripod, so there's no mark or anything there. There is a slight mark right here. You can see right about here, just a scuff kind of thing. And then over here, we're looking pretty good. That's just a mark, nothing permanent. By the Chromebook logo, the Energy Star sticker is still here and hanging on. So all good condition on the lid of the device. If we go around to the edges of the Lenovo Gaming Chromebook here, that all looks fine as well. There is a slight nick right here. If we can get the camera maybe to focus, you can see that little white dot right there. But again, pretty superficial stuff, nothing's sharp, nothing's sticking out. And of course, right, the cost savings make all this really worth it in my mind. If we go over to the right side of the device, that's where we do have our USB Super Speed SS. So I think that's USB 3 or 3.1 there. We also have ability to deliver power. This is how we charge the device via USB-C right there. And there's actually a Kensington lock, which isn't used very commonly, but if a school, a workplace, whatever wants to use that to lock the device in place so no one walks off, that feature is here. And then we do have right here that close-up view of what I was talking about in the initial video when I was covering this alongside the Xbox and the vision for the channel. So you can see it's a little gnarly, definitely, but nothing particularly concerning to me. Again, I can rub my finger all over this. It's not a sharp thing. The only thing that might give me some kind of pause going forward is the camera struggles to focus. There is a line right here. It doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel cracking. I'm pushing on it pretty hard right now. We can't hear anything, or at least I can't. Let me know if you can. So we've got that going on. So that's really the only major sort of indicator to me that this device was ever used. I think those other nicks and scratches, quite frankly, were probably caused by me, whereas this I know was not. So that's really the only indicator that I've got that it's refurbished. We go alongside the back here. Everything looks well. We've got the model name and those things, a plan ID sticker. So I'm not sure if this was purchased again by a workplace or institution. I don't know that that's a sticker that comes from the factory. All the bottom stickers here are on, good, well to do, all of that. The bumpers, the rubber's holding up very well down here. And that's it. There's no significant creaking when pressing on the device from the bottom or the top, I'll say. So let's flip this thing over and let's take a look at what we've got going on from the Chromebook hardware on the interior. So we can see here the screen. I'll talk about the screen. Again, like I mentioned, it's one of the best in any laptop I've ever used. But the condition here is very good as well. We've got the eSupport QR code. We've got the Core i3 sticker. I mean, it looks pretty brand spanking new even after a couple of months of me using it as at least the second owner of this device. The typing experience and the trackpad experience is very good. We can do gestures on the trackpad. So I'll change the camera angle here momentarily, but if I move my mouse or my cursor to the bottom, I can double tap similar to a Windows laptop or a Mac to trigger a right click if I, a kind of a right click selection. On Chromebooks, it's not like other touchpads. Like this doesn't actually trigger the traditional right click and this the left click. It's just all the select option. So you have to double tap to trigger that. You can see here I've got options to auto hide the shelf, change the shelf position at the bottom here. So that's really working really well. The touchpad is big, it's sizable. You can see compared to the size of my hand, this is pretty good. Scrolling and gestures all work really nicely. And then we have our standard Chromebook keyboard layout after that with a number pad, full number pad over here. The only real drawback to this setup that I'm showing you, and I'll bring that up and you can actually hear the typing experience as well. But if I open up my window or my application menu here and I type in, let's try and type in, keyboard light color. Let's look at that. So if I go into keyboard light color, again, you can't totally see this, but I can change the keyboard lighting. Let's hit the lights here so you can see that, but the light doesn't really shine through. So if you're not seeing anything, that's what I'm seeing. There's not a lot to see. These keys, as best I can tell, and I'll hold it up to the camera while the light's still on, are printed in white. So these aren't transparent, like transparent lettering, so the light shines through. So the light really shines more around the edges of the key versus, and there's a little bit of light penetration through the middle versus on other RGB keyboards I've seen and my desktop. I'll bring up my desktop keyboard right here, my drop keyboard. If we're looking at this keyboard here, we can see, right, if I go into this, these letters are transparent. So when the RGB turns on in this keyboard, the lights, I mean, they're very bright on this keyboard. It will shine around the edges, but it also shines through the letters. So I can see in the dark, understand what's going on here. Again, that's a total missed execution point on this Chromebook by Lenovo because, again, these are printed keycap, or I guess printed key letters on the keycaps here, and they don't have very good light penetration. So let's hit the lights and see what we have going on. All right, so the lights are off. As you can see, we just have the display. Let's change the keyboard backlight here. You can see, right, there is some lighting behind the keys here. Let's change it to red. We'll go to green, and you can see, right, some of these keys are kind of disproportionately lit. The V key, the Z key, less than symbol, and what is that, the comma, Alt key, Enter key. And if I change the angle of the device, it doesn't necessarily change the backlight all that well, but then when I angle it like this, you can see there's lights behind the keys. So even these keys that aren't shining quite as bright, you can see there's still this green backlight under the Shift key. There's still these backlights under these keys. So it's not a problem of, the lighting not being uniform or something like that. It's just the design of the keyboard given, what the backlight is behind the scenes. I think they wanted to say, hey, look, we have a backlit keyboard, but didn't really go through any effort to execute. And if I, again, pull this up, you can see at the top of the screen, so we'll show the keyboard, and the top of the screen. You can see that you can change things by zone. So the software is here to make this work. You can make zones a different color. So I'm colorblind. If you're colorblind, just stick with me here. But I can change the color of a particular zone. You can see that Z key that's lit up pretty well is changing colors, but the keys over here are not changing colors because they're part of a different zone. As far as I can tell, it's about 25% of the keyboard each way. And then again, we've got these zone colors that we can change. You can see now the V is changing, but it's just not working really well. I mean, it's pretty dark in here except for the display, and let me crank the brightness on this display down so we can really get a good look. That gives you definitely a better look. The number pad's pretty illuminated, especially if you want to hit 3. And then other parts of this are illuminated. So if I was trying to work on a plane in the dark at night, could I get this done? Yes, right? I mean, yes, I could. But the lighting's really not uniform very much at all within these. And maybe that's intentional, but I just don't know. I mean, we do have some things lit up a little more, like enter, backspace, power, and you can see there it turns off. Let's reactivate, right? It's just not uniform. And that's the biggest complaint. All right, I'll stop talking RGB, especially for myself who's colorblind, right? It's not a big thing. I'm not looking at it pretty regularly, any of that. So it's just a weird quirk that I noticed. I haven't noticed anyone talk about this. It's just an odd thing, but it's not a deal breaker. And especially for, you know, $194, I think it was, absolutely no reason not to buy it, right? That's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. So let's look a little bit at the display here, and forgive the strange angle, but I wanted to show how this looks like in light. You can see I have an overhead light and the brightness is pretty low. That's another strength of the display. It looks great. The refresh rate on here is beautiful. The colors, I think, are decently accurate. Not as accurate as some displays, but decently accurate. You can see that light, right? Let's go back down. That light that's really shining right into the display when it's off. Let's turn it on to the lowest brightness. It's definitely affecting the visibility, and it's worse for you in the camera than it is for me looking at it from behind the camera. But as we crank that brightness up, we can successfully, for the most part, combat that lighting, and now I can make out my row of app icons. I can make out the background. If I have a web page open, I can make that out. Really no problem. So the display does get very bright. And like I said, it's fluid, it's fast, it's easy to navigate through. All those things. So I could go through a deep, browsing test or any of that, but I don't think it's necessary, unless if you want to see it, leave it in the comments. It's Chrome OS. It does web browsing. It does it very well. You can scroll really fast. It's the desktop version of Pages, desktop Pages. It works great. I have used this in direct sunlight. That's why I wanted to point that out. It works very well. And the only quirk is just, the keyboard backlighting is very strange. Some of the strangest I've ever seen. But it's beautiful. I love it. It's great for, like I said, planning my wedding. I'm actually writing a book. It's good for writing a book. So if I just start typing things, it's not registering, but you can hear the keys and that travel. You can see as I type on that. So keys are good. Nothing's too bouncy. The keys have a decent amount of travel. It's not the greatest laptop keyboard of all time. It's not the worst. It's pretty good, right? Serviceable computer for, in my mind, a really, really good price. So this has been Eddie's Tech Talk. Let me know what you guys think in the description below. Again, trying to showcase more the value of maybe electronics of last generation that might be new. So save a buck or two. And again, that's less of an economic impact you're having because the production decision for that was probably made a lot longer ago than you were interested in it. And then, of course, refurbished things, because someone else bought that, took most of the environmental sort of hit on it. You're getting a device with a lot smaller environmental impact. And I think the Lenovo, Gaming Chromebook, let's see what the model number actually was. The Lenovo IP5 Chrome 16L or IAU7, definitely rolls off the tongue there. So that's what we're dealing with the Lenovo Chromebook. It does charge, last thing I'll say, I think it's at 45 watts. So pretty fast charge, and the battery lasts, I don't know, 6-ish hours, I would say. Pretty good battery life, maybe even longer, 8 hours. I've never had a battery life complaint. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. This is Eddie's Tech Talk, and I am signing out.